world know the truth. Exposed the lies, studied your bloodlines, the apprehension of trainings. Let the world know the truth. Exposed the lies, studied your bloodlines, the apprehension of drive before the Spanish, Dutch, and the British arrived. Saying we was from Africa and stole a birthright. That's a trick move, something that a 34 would do. Claim your nationality of the land, you get screwed. So we studied your background, your treaties you wrote. Fake as history, I ain't go up here on no boat. Frontin' like you indigenous to the land, you disgust me. Tomahawks back in our hands, it's getting ugly. You run around screaming black power, cause it sells to the truth. It was filled with a blue and I held Native American but hurt. Cause they know damn well the relatives ain't real. Respect the aborigine, this land is all you know, you all. You still a guest, motherfucker. I want you to believe in grandma's society. Keep killing them, telling myself. I want you to believe in grandma's society. Keep killing them, telling myself. House nigga, real nigga, fake nigga, feel nigga. My skin ain't black, what the deal, nigga? Salute on my real shit, it's aborigines, owners of the land and every goddamn tree and every goddamn sea. Invaders ever cross, step foot on the land, and you can step the fuck off. Breathe, you gon' make a swing the sacred tomahawk. Fucking around with us with that black constant. Fake pics of slave ships, that's the reference. If we African, look, you gon' need more evidence. I'm American, Aboriginal, indigenous, Chibokee, is name test. That shit is rhetoric. Stay woke, Aboriginal, get out. You civil rights acts, all you need, big out. It's Stockholm syndrome, mix kids out. Phoenix Moon got the antidote, get that shit out. Meanwhile, rapping about my birthright, fuck a freestyle. Teach each man, each woman, each child. Black race is really Indians indeed now. Man, they indeed now. Honey, dog, title 18. G goes, pilgrims get big gold. With Phoenix and Beast Mode. Bringing my peoples out of the sleep mode. We ain't black, colors, Africans, or Negroes. But one little, two little, three little, young grandma's society. Keep killing them, telling myself. I have one little, two little, three little, young grandma's society. Keep killing them, telling myself.
Halito, beloveds, Chimachukma, everyone, Oshio, Wengapo. We got Mr. Lamont Jack Pearly, beloved brother, is a Blues Hall of Fame inductee. He's got several literary, cinematic pieces that we'll talk about a little bit. Mr. Pearly, The Importance of Blues. He's an expert. He's got decades of experience in the music industry. We love him and respect him. I met him through our beloved Chief Warhorse. I wanted to bring him. This is long overdue. Thank you for being here, Mr. Pearly. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm honored, actually. I've been following you since we met, and I'm beyond impressed. This is a big moment.
Thank you. So definitely, I wanted to give us a little snippet on some of the things that you've done over the course of these years. Your humble beginnings. We're interested. We want to know.
Sure. This is kind of awkward because I'm usually the one asking the questions, so now I got to talk about myself,
right.
And that's not. But man, where do we start? I guess I'll start with the work, and then we can go into how I got into all this stuff, because all of this pretty much is based on my household, my grandparents' household. Both sides and just, the whole spiel. But man, me and my brother and my cousins, we was deep into hip hop, basketball, football, and we all just started, we chose what sword and lane worked for us, and we just jumped in it. That we had a good run, in all of us in the underground hip hop scene. And then we, I didn't want to be a 40-year-old rapper and I had some experiences that made me adjust my vision of the future. So I
Right.
ended up going back to school for filmmaking, and in that, my goal was to always show that music and film kind of go hand in hand. So I was able to produce a few films and some original series. Some of the films, a couple of the films went to some notable festivals, and you can find all of the series on YouTube.
Right.
And I man, I went to bury my pops, me and my brother, around the time when I was having writer's block in music. I was a lyricist, MC, and I was having writer's block, and I couldn't even write to some of the dopest instrumentals that I had my hands on. And we ended up going down to Louisiana to bury my pops in Belrose, Louisiana. And it's kind of like the blues ancestors jumped on me, and we buried my granddaddy from Mississippi on the VA in a veterans grave site in Virginia. All our family from Mississippi came, and the Black spiritual ancestors jumped on me, and here we are today.
Right.
Pretty much in a nutshell. So I was able to do a feature film called King of B. I did a short film called Native New Yorker.
Yes.
I did a couple of web series, one at the UCB, with a lot of the UCB plays, Upright Citizen Brigade. Some of them are on Comedy Central, some of them are on SNL, called The Industry, which was my play on the extreme characteristics and inner workings. So just to put it in a nutshell, all these people who were trying to get into film and television, from actors to writers to producers to reality stars, ended up in the psychiatric ward. So, that's kind of how I see the entertainment business to a degree. And I had to question my sanity after a while.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Right. So you understand.
Yes.
Then as I got into this space, as I told you, the ancestors really spoke to me, and I started tracing my family, different things. I knew pieces of everything. It's like a puzzle, as you would know. And I had many of the pieces, but I was prepared after the death of my pops and grandpops to start putting those pieces together. And that it started on the blues trail. And I don't mean the commercial blues trail,
Right.
right? I mean the DNA blues trail.
That's right.
And so what I found, I started blogging. I used my broadcast and filmmaking skills to start sharing these stories and creating some docu-series, so I could, I could start, if nothing else, inspire people to start digging
Right.
for themselves and connecting themselves to something that is commercially viable to other people, but it came out of our households. And, I'm sure you want to get into situations like that. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I don't like talking about myself too much.
Right. Well, tell us about you getting inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. How did that feel? How did you get there?
Well, I could tell you how it feels, because I still, when I look at the picture and the video, I still feel the chills.
Right.
Dan, who runs it, Michael, man, I'm sad I forget his name because he passed, and the brother Garland, they've been following my work for some time, and we chatted up each other for a while, and they nominated me first and foremost for I was inducted for a great radio and broadcast and historian, right? Because I was doing the podcast and I was on the radio, WFDU, which is on the Fairleigh Dickinson campus. And I was doing a lot of work with New Amsterdam Musical Association, better known now as NAMA Harlem, right? And I had brought, well, I call it what it is. I brought light to a place that seemed to be forgotten or not known by a lot of people.
Right.
And just to give you a quick background, NAMA New Amsterdam Musical Association was the very first black musicians union brought together in the late 1800s. I forget the specific year, by about 4 cats. And at that time, if you couldn't read sheet music, if you didn't know music theory, and if you was not in the union, you could not be hired as a musician. And I don't know how people are going to take this, but I just got to keep it a buck. Minstrelsy, vaudeville, these were big, big productions.
Right.
And the musicians were top of the line black musicians, right? Brown musicians. So you had to be in the union, and they were not letting any black or brown people in the union. So this place was established. James Europe Reese was part of it. We can go down the list. Many people were part of it. And he's a big jazz man. Oh man, this brother's name escapes me. He wrote the music in the play for Ain't Nobody, Take Nobody Business. And in that big play, I forget, forgive me, Gus, but he was part of it. There was a plethora of huge name black composers and jazz and blues musicians that were part of this place. Jelly Red Morton went through there, you know, and what ends up happening is during the Harlem Renaissance and prior, when the black musicians complained these white establishments but could not frolic and congregate in these black establishments, they went to Nama, to their brownstone, and they went in there down in the basement, their speakeasy, and they got right. And they had rooms up there for where the artists could stay. So, you know, just a brief history. I can go on for days with that, but I had brought light to them. I found them because I was in a documentary called Mr. Handy's Musical History. It was about W.C. Handy. And I was interviewed in that film, in that documentary, at this place. That's how I found out about the place. So I did my research, and I was just so happy. I wanted to share it with everybody. So I got it on the map in the blues community, and this is how I got that first induction. To make a long story short, after that induction, they said, "Wait a minute, you play, right?" I was like, "Well, yeah, you know, I'm a bluesman. I do my little thing." And, you know, they researched me. They came out and saw me do my little, I have a show called, it's now called, at the time it wasn't called this, it's now called the Jack Dappa Blues Experience. So I play acoustic blues, right? And if anyone's familiar with Son Houses, it resembles him, but my own style. I ain't never picked cotton. I grew up on the concrete, so my story is different. But it mirrors that to a degree, because he touched his music and everything about this dude kind of, it just favors what I grew up in, just on an urban environment. So what I have original music. I play I sing a couple of songs, and then I tell the story of the blues as it relates to my personal experience and my family. So they got wind of these performances, and it's like, yo, man, we got to induct you. You know, there's different tiers, and they inducted me as a great blues performer. And the inductions happen. Now, this is where, you know, we get into super duper nerves and stuff like this, and why I told you I still feel away, because the inductions at the time was happening at BB King's, 42nd Street.
42nd, right.
So the first time it was fine because I didn't have to. I was injured, so I didn't have to play.
Right.
The second time, because they was inducting me as a bluesman, as a musician, I had to play, and I was fine. Two of my friends were inducted to Piedmont Blues Acoustic Duo. If you guys don't know, look them up. This Valerie Turner is modern day Etta Baker. All these names is escaping me right now, but she gets
like
busy.
Etta James or
No, Etta Baker. She plays Piedmont finger picking blues on the guitar.
Okay.
There's Elizabeth Cotton is who I was thinking of. She's our generation's Elizabeth Cotton, and her husband Ben Turner. He makes washboard instruments, and he plays the harp.
You went out a little bit. Can you repeat that? You said he makes washboard music?
he makes washboard instruments. He plays the washboard and he plays the harmonica, and they are a sight to see. So we were inducted together, right? So when I got there, I was great. Did the sound check, I was great. I was sitting on the side of the stage, and that's when it hit me. Yo, bruh, you getting inducted, and you about to play your blues in BB King's, and that, and is the funny part about it was, I felt my hands shaking. I did this entire performance. People loved it, and if you see it, I kind of look like Son House because my hands are shaking. But most people thought that was a style, or I had a couple of drinks. But I'll be honest, I was scared to death. But it was a very beautiful experience and extremely, extremely humbling, right? Because not necessarily that the induction, and I'm not minimizing it, but so what happens is, when I started this journey as what I found to be a folklorist and an ethnographer documenting, you know what this is, genealogist. When I started this, I was getting a lot of pushback and approach with confrontation by older white male academics. And what are you talking? Questioning my validity in my story. So I was out with something to prove, because I'm like, yo, how are you questioning me? You have six-hand information. I'm telling you what was in my house, right? But then what happens is, as I begin to understand what this purpose is and what I'm really supposed to be doing, I matured a bit and understood I don't have a point to prove. What I'm to do is present information and allow people to receive it and get a better understanding. And if they're willing, they can look it up, because once that started happening and people started reaching out to me, telling me what they found and how it helped them look at things different or adjust their view of the blues people or the blues culture. And it allowed them to not only play better, but enjoy better. And these are quote unquote non-Black folk. We know what the code word is, but you just bear with me. It became that much more humbling when people were recognizing my work, because then I realized the huge responsibility, and that I can't be in my feelings doing this. I have to stay logic and unbiased, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So what instruments do you play? How long have you been playing? Are you self-taught, or did you take
self-taught?
instruction?
I'm self-taught. I play the guitar, the acoustic guitar. I have a electric. One day I'm gonna pick it up. My baby girl's been eyeing it, and she wants it. But I play acoustic guitar. I started with I tried to find a banjo. I couldn't, and I got a banjo. Then I bought a guitar. I have a dobro, which is what I call the poor man's national, and I have a national custom made on its way. So I'm about to be getting to it.
Wow.
I am self-taught. I'm self-taught. Between YouTube and just listening to those old tunes and some good friends that are premier bluesmen and blueswomen that give me pointers.
Right.
But I picked it up and I just, if I come out of making music, right? I never played an instrument, but you have to get adjusted to learning how to at least play a rhythm or something. If you want to tell a producer or what have you, this is what I'm hearing. So it wasn't hard to a degree. The hardest part about the guitar, unlike the piano, is fretting those strings. It could be very frustrating in the beginning, but it's what it is, and I'm still learning. It's a journey, you know what I mean? Even Jimi Hendrix said he's still trying to figure out how to play it better, and he was great.
He was excellent. He was absolutely excellent. I actually used to stay up in New York City. I think it was WPIX at the time, Channel 11. They would always show Woodstock, and I have no idea. Probably since I was 4 or 5 years old up until now, every time I catch it, I sit there and I watch you know, all of the festivities in its entirety, from Joe Cocker to Janis Joplin, Hendrix, with just so many beautiful people. But the vibe there, as I became older, one thing that I always loved about, I don't think I really noticed it until probably in my 30s, maybe the last time I watched it, was the owner of the farm. This was at a time where they were, you know, the protests in the Vietnam War, complete racial segregation, and you had this owner of the farm, and he was a handicapped individual. I think he was like missing an arm. He had some sort of injury that he has sustained, and he got up there and he just, you know, kind of looked around, and he says, and it was just like, you know, older white man, and he says, you know, he just talked about all the love that was there, and he was like, you know, like he was happy that he let them use his property for this great thing that caused these moments of peace, even if it was temporary. And it was really, really powerful just seeing everybody. There was no colors there. There was no you know, there was no imbalance there at all. Everybody was in love. Everybody was in love.
Literally and figuratively.
Right, that too. And they had a lot of health issues, but just the mess that they left, and just to know that that man was like okay with everything, because for those days, and then the conditions that they had to work through with the extreme rain and thunder, and you know, they certainly didn't have the modern stuff that we do now. But it was just an amazing experience. I know I was born in the wrong decade. I could probably name at least 2 top 10 songs from the 1900s up to now. You know, I've always been a stickler for music. My uncle had this huge collection of records, and we've always had access to music, even access to play instruments. I was more of the writer. Actually, I got punked out of a Purple Rain freestyle playing the drums when I was about 10 years old. Yeah, I got threatened. What was his name? Devon Thomas. He's probably like a creep now too. That was back in 1985. But he told me he did a little ninja flip, ran up the wall, and did like a backflip and stuff. So I kind of believed him for that moment, that if I played that solo, that Purple Rain solo, that, you know,
I get it
with those ninja stars, right? But about, you know, just music has always been my muse. Just during it helped me deal with a lot of things. It helped me articulate my emotions. It helped me expand my creativity, and to, you know, that was like my safe place when we started seeing the things change in the neighborhood. When the crack era came through, music kind of kept us from getting into things that weren't for us. You know what I'm saying? We had that to hold. Of course, now I have a group called Cornbread and Collard Greens, and it is complete American nostalgia. American nostalgia, blues, sports, all of our excellence, all of our culture combined in this group. When you guys come in this group, there's no headaches at all. We post songs and music that make us feel good. Sometimes we even talk about the vibe, what we were wearing when this song came out, what house party we were at. It's a total feel good group. We sit there and we critique and we go over old things that we missed, and you know, we discuss now, you know, when we were 10, we didn't know what this meant, and you know, we just talk about those things. But those things, the old movies, the old sports moments, they bring us, you know, brings us joy to see what our people have accomplished and have contributed to the entire globe. We've contributed to the entire globe with our culture, and I just think that no one can really take the credit away from us, but at the same time, we don't get the accolades of as being the founders of how the world sees their entertainment. Right? They kind of tried to shame us for the dancing and shucking and jiving and stuff like that. But at the same time, that's part of what everybody loved about us, our ability to be creative and entertain and talk jive and dance this way and specific sounds that the whole world seems to love, mimic, and replicate.
And make money off of.
Make millions and billions of dollars off of it. Even hip hop, how they demonized it and bastardized it, then they bought it, took it from us, and now they sell it back, and it's not even in it's not even in the form that it came in. You know what I'm saying? Because hip hop was a positive thing. It was like an alternative for the people that couldn't dance battle, because we used to battle each other with dances and stuff instead of always picking up guns and sticks and bats and things like that. So I know hip hop was the next formation after that to settle different beefs or discrepancies and stuff like that peacefully. right? Because we did this in the park
Definitely.
where all of our families were. You know, you had Cool Herc, you had even Chill Will from Dougie Fresh. They've
That's
always
right.
did music. They have all these different contributions. All the different boroughs, all over the place. We've taken these talents, and the whole world gets to enjoy them. And I'm
Right.
just so proud that, you know, they come from us, our blood, sweat, and tears. And even through some of the tumultuous things that we've been through, even in our own country, the fact that we were still able to find joy in things that we're able to give other people joy during these times, I think that's pretty amazing. I think that's pretty
Is very amazing. I mean, is it actually gives it proves who we are, right? It proves who we are on this planet and in the universe,
yes,
right? Because it really doesn't matter what happens to us. Something is created out of that brings love and joy to the world. And it's just ironic you mentioned how hip hop came about and then it was taken, repackaged, and sold back. And all I kept thinking about was the British invasion because that's what they did with the blues,
right.
right? You know, the hip hop, and people forget, you know, and in my older age, and it's funny, you know, because when we were younger and our uncles and pops and grandparents and moms and everybody, oh, don't be doing this, put your hat forward, don't, you know, all the stuff that when they were kids, they was doing, you know, and
Right.
now that I'm an adult, I'm listening, well, you know, I don't know if I'm an adult, but I'm just older. But
Slightly older.
right. Um, you know, I see certain things, I hear certain songs, I'm like, yo, come on, what is this? But I have to remember the biggest thing that we have to keep in mind, hip hop was created in a gang culture to prevent people from dying, getting hurt, and going to jail.
That's right.
So it
That's,
is a gang culture, it's a street culture.
yes.
You know, and we have to remember that because there's so many things that people don't understand about many of these cultures and subcultures because at, as I like this word, genealogy,
Mm,
it is inherited, right? You tell somebody who comes out of a full, like if their grandfather was running in a gang, chances are the great grandson just might be as well. Not
right.
and they don't wake up saying I'm going to be bad because it's not about bad, it's not about good. It's about tradition, survival.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be in this lane that I'm in, I have to train you how to survive in this lane. And
That's
that
right.
goes right, and that goes for the academic world, that goes for everything. And I think what happens is, especially to our traditions and culture, it gets bastardized verbally by others so that those of us that are from it can turn their nose away, and
Yeah.
that gives them an opportunity to get their hands on it and to exploit it, because at the end of the day it's really about exploitation. So now we could talk about how, because I'm happy you brought this up, I get excited. One of the reasons why everybody loves it, everybody gets it, and everybody makes money off it is because the fact that it got to a point, it didn't matter what we created. We didn't own it. They profited on it.
That's right.
So if we go all the way back, however, and I say however, not to be disrespectful, but everything is not absolute. And then there's still people that don't fully understand the cotton industry. They don't understand slavery and different things that
Yes.
I've had the privilege to discuss with you, Honorable Chief and Honorable Walto. A lot of people don't understand certain things. So I'm trying to keep it from using specific terminologies.
Right.
But the free labor is what I'm talking about.
Mm,
Once free labor became a system here, anything we create is up for game. And that's what happens to our music,
yes.
you know. And so now we're in the situation with the blues. The blues really is the song documentation of the blues people. It is birthed out of slave seculars. It is birthed out of ragtime. It is birthed out of reels. It is birthed out of black spirituals. We can go all, and I have to be honest, some people, they don't like me saying this, but it was not, I thought so early on.
Mm-hmm.
until I understood it was not birthed in Africa, it was birthed here. This is a purely American-made expression. Does it have pieces of other cultures? Eventually, these things were added on. Absolutely.
Right.
You know, there's different things that people don't understand why the blues reached to Mali or to these other places, right? And because most of these stories were either told backwards or incorrectly, period,
Right.
they're thinking that it started there and was brought here, but it was already here, right?
Indeed.
And the biggest misconception academically that I'm finding, because I make that distinction because in this academic world, which because of my work, I've been kind of recruited into, and it's okay because I don't have a point to prove, but we have to really put in a proper context our story. So that's why I'm here.
Yes.
What happens is, as I go back and research, and again, the reason why I use academic, because it was academics who started or popularized this folklore ethnography type thing, and then the rebirth in the 60s, where a lot of young white men and some white women were able to galvanize and culminate tenures in universities, studying our people and our music. They have this idea that Mississippi is the Delta, and Mississippi, everything black starts in Mississippi. And it's kind of mind-boggling because you can just look it up and see that the Delta is like, what, 9 or 13 states? Something like this?
Right. About that.
Right. And then the different other things. So there's just a lot of things that are misinformed, right? You know, and musically, a lot of the names of the music was just based on the regions of where it was popular.
Where it was made. The Delta blues.
Piedmont blues,
right. Piedmont
Texas.
Blues. Yeah.
Right. So those are a couple of things that I wanted to just throw out there based on what we're talking about. And furthermore, you know, we also have to understand not only the shift of the music shifted with the people and the terrain where they were, right? Like we can just use Muddy Waters being the father. Come on now, you know.
Him and Howlin' Wolf.
Right.
Smoke Lightning, my favorite.
Exactly. What did they do? They took Southern style black music, and I keep doing this for a reason, you know why, and they brought it to the urban environment.
Right.
And then they just had to adjust to the sound of that region. So they took these electric instruments, but they kept playing the traditional music.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, it was genius. I'm not minimizing it, but it's still there.
Yes.
Other people, you know, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, they just electrified and sped up our traditional music. James Brown, you go back, you listen to all these guys. All that was the blues, whether they called it that or not.
Right. Right.
You know, and then, you know, we go into gospel, then we go into doo-wop, we go into rhythm and blues, not R&B. Then we go into soul, funk, disco, hip hop, and then comes R&B and everything else.
Right.
But it's a thread, and all those threads were based on lack of resource and displacement.
Yes. Yes. That's absolutely true. I definitely I don't know if you guys have ever heard, you know, Sunday mornings, grandma getting the food together and stuff like that. We heard Howlin' Wolf. There was another Brooks Benton. I remember a lot of people that I probably shouldn't, but I was always interested, and I would ask these questions about, you know, who made that song? How old is this song? You know, I always had those kind of questions, and I would get to the bottom of things. It made me very they knew when I come around, there's going to be some questions that I'm going to ask. So they kind of knew what they were going to get.
Right, you was inquisitive.
Of course, that we couldn't listen to. As soon as I turned 18, I ran out and got a Millie Jackson album because I always wanted to know what was that lady talking about? I just remember them hiding the album cover because she was sitting on the toilet with those red high heels on, and and I just was like, okay, this was wild. So even just seeing that album cover was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be looking at this, but we certainly couldn't hear the album. But there's just all this wonderful talent and stuff like that, and then just to think of how many rap artists recycled the blues, how they recycled funk, how they recycled the jazz, and they did this over and over. They still do. They don't really necessarily sample as much as they did before, but damn it, if James Brown wasn't one of the most sampled people
that's right.
in history, even after they really stopped doing all the samples, maybe in the early 2000s, late 90s, they kind of started making more original.
Moving over,
yeah, you had the crunk sound coming out of the South. You had different types of elements coming. Of course, California has their own sound as well, even though it's groovable universally to us. They still had their own sound, but the contributions all come from the same place, and it was from being exposed to music from our elders. And I'm sure it probably meant something completely different to them. Especially for them being there at the time where it's like, oh wow, to us, and they're like, oh child, that's old news. We done been there, put it away already. I don't know if you guys know who Howlin' Wolf is. Definitely check out that catalog. There's new people as well too. Again, Grandma still plays the blues, like Big Cynthia. She's hilarious. I love her music. And it has these elements to it that everybody can relate to. You saw the post that I made the other day. I forget the lady's name, but I was talking about some of the vulgarity in music. Also a form of expression, whether we like it or not. It was still part of a creative expression. And it was a piece that was done. So, we could criticize and everything, but I'm sure at the time it was all the rave. I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it was. See, and this is where it gets again convoluted, and there's no absolute. A lot of times, as of the recent 20 years, 30 years, maybe the vaudeville minstrels and the term coon, we feel a way about it, right? Yeah. But we have to understand what these things were in our community and our tradition, right? Because this was Black folk way of making money. This was their creativity. There's a style of singing called coon shouting, right? Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, they were coon shouters.
Right.
There was these two guys, the name slipped me. There's these two Black men, one from here, one, if they weren't from Africa, they're from Jamaica. And they made this great production company, and they got to Broadway, and they started making these big plays. But their brand was, we the two coon of the coons, we the cooniest coons. Ain't no coon more coon than us.
Right.
And this is really what they were saying. They actually, I think they did a play called Sons of Ham. So, but what I'm getting to is we frown on these things because we're kept off balance with emotional images and jargon. But this is it's comedy, and Living Color is a minstrel. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, because the true purpose outside of the quote unquote grotesque caricatures, they were symbolic to the nastiness of the system that was bleeding us dry.
Yes.
And once you begin to look at it logically and not emotionally, you can see it. So it's easy to look at what's these young brothers? They do what people call it mumble rap. It's easy to look at them and be like, oh, what the hell? Because sometimes I do that too. I mean, I come from the era of Rakim and Big Daddy Kane. So, off the gate, I'm turned off. But then if you really listen to these kids, they're actually resembling tribal chants in their music. So there's, whether they know it or not, there's depth to this.
Right.
And the blues, like hip hop like the blues, is the only true American music that come out of melanated, I like that word, a melanated group of people with no European influence outside of oppression or the lack of resources.
Right. That's right.
You know,
Even with the you talked about the European invasion that was in the 80s, and they did make some pretty fascinating music mimicking our stuff. You had
right,
a Culture Club, Thompson Twins. You had all of these great people, Duran even, and they crossed over into our era. I'm not talking about the Hall and Oates who had those R&B vibes. They had those elements already. But
right.
I'm talking about the straight up
Adele.
eyeliner, hold me now, you know, hungry like a wolf. This was the music that actually crossed over into the R&B stations. You know, they played those songs on 98.7 Kiss. They played that on BLS. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They got a lot of airplay, even in our channels. And they did have their Z100s. They had their channels where you wanted to hear soft rock and things of that. You can definitely do that. But this music was so fascinating and similar to ours. Even Paul McCartney started making songs with Michael Jackson that crossed over. Like, they had so many different elements that came into, you know, what it is that we were doing, and we accepted it. You have even Tina Marie. There was another lady, I want to say Jean Carnes. I think it was
Possibly. I can't. I know you're talking about. I don't remember her name fully.
Yeah, you had France Jolie who mimicked Donna Summer. You always had the imitations, but then you had the exceptional people that they'll tell you. You got people like Adele, Joss Stone, that'll tell you every influence that they have comes from our music. Oh, Aretha
Right.
Franklin was my favorite. Oh, I love Luther Vandross. So you got all of these great singers from all over the world that their influence came from the Jacksons, from the Motown sound, from the Cadillac Records sound, the Chess Records. You know, you had all of these people that show exactly where it is that they got their inspiration from, their style from, and how that shaped, you know, where they are now in their craft. So
Right.
I would say I used to give the Migos. I'll use them, perfect example.
That's what I was thinking of. Right. Yep. Yep.
I gave them a very hard time. They had this is probably the last of my club days, maybe 2008, 2009. And they had came and performed. They tore up, they turned up. The boys, they get it in now. You're not going to sit there and punk them. Them boys, they ain't going to let their bodyguards fight. They get up and they pop off. So, you know, they had this, you know, this reputation of being, though, hey, they fight. You're going to have extra security because them boys, you know, whatever.
They get down.
Understand, I couldn't take it. It was a new thing, a new sound, and it's not that I couldn't embrace that, but when I'm like, what are they saying? They're not saying anything. I had to catch myself. And then a couple years later, this is probably their second album, I saw this video with these brothers, and they had on the Native American gear, and it was a song called T-shirt, white T-shirt. And I listened to what they're saying, and then I had to go back, and I said, you know what? Then the next thing that I saw from them was Culture. They had another album called Culture, and they're doing the Soul Train thing. So now as I'm seeing these gentlemen grow, I had to give them their props, because even though they're talking about things that I don't necessarily agree with, they kept it real with the family. Even they may be talking about doing drugs one minute, and I pay my mama bills. I wish my grandma could see me. I love my uncle. Like, they just had these elements that show that hey, we ain't too big that we forget cornbread and collard greens. We know where we came from. And I kind of like that. And I had a different respect for them. So they helped me kind of be a little, you know, less restrictive in what it is in my judgment towards these rappers now. And one thing I will say that I love about them is the fact that they own their own stuff already.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
they're
indeed.
smarter than you know, let's say people years ahead of them were. They own their own product. They have their masters already. They're doing their own independent thing. And to me, even if I don't like the music, the business, they're bringing it back home. I respect that.
Definitely, because that was a big issue early on. Just before I even touch on that, I just wanted to piggyback. The British invasion you discussed was like the second. Remember, the first British invasion was the Beatles and all of that.
Stones and everybody else. You're right about that.
And the irony about that was the white people that used to have to listen in private and in secret to what was called back then race music were able to listen in public now because it was being brought back from over there. And most of them will tell you that just like Adele and them, well, we like this one. The exception back then was, I just remember his name, and I can't believe, Buddy Holly was one of the exceptions back then. He had soul, and they thought his band was black. They didn't know it was white. And when he went to all those race labels, they was like, "You're white. No, we can get out of here." And he finally found one. But as for I want to celebrate Migos, and especially for what you just said, owning and ownership. Yes. That was one, and I'm happy you brought up Howlin' Wolf. That was one of the biggest issues a lot of the execs, I'll put it that way, had with him, because Howlin' Wolf was no dummy. Not that not that the rest of them was. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying was his business was always together, even before he went back to school. So Howlin' Wolf ran his band like a business. They would pay him. He would take taxes out, pay his musicians. So when they didn't have gigs or things were slow, he can give them unemployment. He ran it like a business. He owned his stuff, and they had a problem with that. You know what I mean? Because Ray Charles owns his stuff.
Yes.
But those were few and far beyond. Nowadays, we got Migos, we got Jay-Z. We can name a whole slew. We have Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson bought the Beatles catalog. He gave back what's this guy's name? He's one of my favorite.
I think he gave back Elvis's catalog back to Priscilla or Lisa Marie.
I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. He's one of my most favorite musicians. He performed with his siblings, and a couple of white dudes was in the band. They did Everyday People.
Sly Stone? No.
Yes.
It is
Sly Stone. He gave back, so gave back Sly Stone. I believe he did it to a couple of other older black musicians as well. And because what happens is, I can't say too much about this, but I'll put it this way: these contracts, they own your image, they own your name, they can take life insurance out on you. So now, if you walk away from them, that means they can take somebody, make them look like you, and make money off you. They take your name. You have to change everything. That is the ultimate definition of slavery.
Yes. A lot of the reason why Prince would draw a slave on his face when he withdrew from Warner Brothers.
Correct. So it's a dirty. It could be. I don't want to say it is. Because there are other lanes that is not as nasty. So I don't want to make a broad blanket, but it could be very, very dirty. And at least for what happened to me, some of the experiences I either had or was around and witnessed, it removes the taste of enjoyment and love. And it becomes, time to armor up. And then it's like, you have to start making some real life decisions.
Yes, indeed. I certainly can tell my story. I definitely withdrew from the music business. I made a lot of money unsigned. I got to travel all over the place. But there was always something that in me creatively, I just didn't want to embarrass my grandmother. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be half naked on MTV and I just didn't think that would be okay. I always wondered, how would my mother feel about this? Is my dad going to be okay with this? What is my daughter going to think of me 20 years from now? So all of those things factored in, plus some of the behavior, the debauchery, I wasn't with the drugs. I wasn't with nothing going on in the champagne room. So I kind of didn't fit in.
Right. I didn't mean to laugh, but the champagne room, that was, that's where it went down.
Please know what the champagne room is, but that was it, and it was a tragic loss. A really good friend of mine, E-Money Bags, I loved him. Once he died, I kind of just said, you know what, unless I want to walk around with guns thinking, I might potentially have to put two in somebody's kneecap. I just couldn't live like that. I just went back. I left New York, and I went upstate, and I went and got a job. I was
I
gonna
do know.
sign with Murder Inc. And right before then, Charlie Baltimore came in, and I was super pissed off because I don't really know how she got in. I don't really care, but it was perfect timing anyway because they had a unfortunate setback with the feds coming in, and I would have, could have potentially been in trouble for something I had absolutely nothing to do with. So everything ain't for everybody. I absolutely have no regrets. My name isn't mud. I kept my integrity. I made all my engagements and stuff on time. I put my own show together. So I definitely had, I had fun. And that's what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to be fun. It wasn't about the money. It was about the creativity and being able to express that in a place where it was very hard for us to be, have those different avenues to do that. So I definitely, and then there's some wonderful people that I got to work with that I totally love. They're good people just in general outside of the music. Shout out to Smith and Wesson. They always treated me like the princess of the crew. Yuck.
Definitely.
Boot Camp Click, BTU. I absolutely adore them. They took very good care of me. Very good care of my children. My children had loved them too. I got to go all over the place with them. They invited me to Czechoslovakia, just all these different places. I got to work with a lot of people that I appreciate. So not everybody is trash. Not everybody.
No. I mean, for what it's worth, a lot of those dudes are still my friends, and they were my friends and family before music. And
right.
Now that we're talking about my favorite organization, Boot Camp, shout out to my brother Sean Price. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Sean. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Sean Price was a dope cat. Helter Skelter, absolutely loved them. He was a good dude though. Yes. Again, so and if you notice, all of the best people don't really make the most money. You know what I'm saying? There's certainly a lot happened, and then there's the people that had a lot of music, great songs that never got to come out with people with Pac and Biggie, songs that could have took them over the top, and they didn't even, those brothers' lives got snuffed out, so they didn't even get a chance to get that off, and then the red tape and stuff. So the albums are shelved. They're probably still bomb if they came out to this day, even though they're 20 years old. The people would still appreciate them, but the red tape. So, but I still say that I'm sure those men would rather have their integrity and have their good name rather than just be the richest asshole in America because, of whatever those contributions were. Because you got to give up some contributions in order to obtain, that astronomical wealth too. There's some sacrifices you have to make, and there's some ass kickings that you have to take as well. Right. And it may look good for the people on the outside, but it really is a lot of work. It really is a lot of work, and there's a lot of people that you got to pay. There's a lot of upkeep, especially for females. Women are very expensive, and even hair done, and even nails done. Got to look. So I know what that was about, and I think that now, and I've been speaking about wanting to be in the studio again and stuff like that, and that's kind of just to diffuse some of the things that build up from, doing the civil rights activism and stuff like that. I still have my muses. I still have the things that I love, the things that bring me joy. And I will put myself in a bubble just so that I can enjoy those things. I'm entitled to be in love with music. I'm entitled to go back to those, those days where I'm just caught up in these beats and all I want to do is write. You know what I'm saying? And that's a healthy form, the healthiest form of expression that I've ever been able to muster.
Definitely. I mean, you said it all right there, and I guess that's why I jumped in to the blues, which is just the great grandfather of hip hop with both feet, because it and you just said it. Once you really commit to tapping into that, it's always there.
Yep.
And then you feel like a part is missing. Sometimes I walk around here rapping. I don't really do it too much, not because anything other than I focus on a different style of songwriting.
Right.
However, you don't lose that. I could be somewhere walking, and then 32 bars come in my head. I was like, "Ooh, I should write that down." I was like, "Well, slow down, young man."
Right. Right.
But it's always there. It's always there, and you do have the right to whether you want. See, a couple of good brothers, Wise P, Blase, they told me some years ago, place ourselves in a position that we're not doing music for money. you'll always have a good time doing
That's
music.
right. That's right. That's
Because
right.
you're just doing what you feel is dope.
That's
And,
right.
you know, so I mean, I encourage you, whether you put it or not, out or not, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Definitely looking to make a American Indian mixtape, a urban Indian mixtape. We got some
Definitely.
really good some really good people that are like super dope, and I could tell them they're dope all day, but I need them to know how dope they are, because they need to be able to convince other people. I already see it. I think you went out, Mr. Pearly. Oh, there you go. Okay, it went out for a second. But there's so many creative people. And then this is also an avenue that is good for the children. If you show them how to do it healthy, without the aggression and stuff like that, this is going to be a way for your kids to be able to learn how to articulate themselves and to express themselves in a way that, in a non-violent way. If you have the right words to say, you don't really get your fist all balled up and don't, because you don't know how to articulate yourself or how to communicate or express yourself, right? So I think that is excellent exercise for some of these children. And pretty much that's really kind of all they know. So if you try and take them out their element and give them things that they're not familiar with or don't feel like they can, be good at, then they're probably not going to be interested. But they know that they can do that. Get them a pen. My uncle got me a pen and a piece of paper. Hey, baby, write it down. You're really good. Did you do that yourself? I never forget my first song. I wrote about crack. And I talked about people smoking crack. I'll never forget, my uncle was like, I was scared to have him read it because I had a couple of profanities in it. And he was just like, this shit is excellent. That's how you feel about your neighborhood. That's how you feel when you see these people. Like, and I was probably like 10, 11 years old, and I was just sitting there like, do I answer yes? Do I tell him, yes, that is how I feel? And then I was just like, you know what, Unc? Yeah, and I don't like seeing this, and I don't like seeing that. And that was it. And it's been that way. So this is something that is good for children. Maybe we should have camps or things that's available for them to stay inside their element, stay inside of their culture in order to treat and heal them as well. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. No, I definitely agree. I'll share a story with you. I credit my writing to my mother. When I was a little dude, I was a PBS kid, and my mother was a teacher. She was a childhood educational specialist.
Right.
And she taught at PS 93 in Bed-Stuy during the crack era. So this is she's tough.
Yeah.
Because you're not dealing with the kids, you're dealing with the parents. But anyway, it was one summer, I think it was Eyes on the Prize or one of these shows was on, and I was hollering, cussing out the TV. Well, I wasn't cussing, I'm lying, because my mom would have smacked the crap out of me. But I was yelling, and I was angry. Right. And I wanted, and I was yelling at the TV, so I want to kill you and all this kind of stuff. And she came running in, and she had a broom. I guess she thought I saw a rodent or something. Right. And she saw she saw I was looking at the TV, and I was like, I hate them. And she calmed me down. She got me dressed, took me to the store. We bought about 3 composition notebooks and a pack of pens. And we went upstairs, and she said, listen, don't be a loudmouth. She said, well, first thing, people will push you to the front. And when you put your hand back there looking for your backup, ain't nobody going to be there. So they're going to throw you out to the wolves. She said, don't be a loudmouth, because most loudmouths don't do nothing but run their mouth. She said, document everything. This is the most powerful weapon you'd ever have. That's what kind of started me. Right. Everything else was pretty much Melly Mel, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One. I was like, yo, I want to sound like that.
Right.
And my cousin COL, he was nice since we was babies. And so I was like, yo, I got to get my game up.
Right. I had the pleasure of my godmother. She was married to Keith Cowboy from Grandmaster. Wow. Shout out to Doughboy, Hannah and G, my godbrothers. So we've always been exposed to it. We've always been exposed. And, growing up in New York, you see Nas once, you've seen him a million times. Like, you grow up around these people, it's not really a big deal. You know what I'm saying? You're always happy for them. So just the exposure's always been there. And shout out to, I think it's Pasta News today. It's his birthday from De La Soul.
Definitely.
And I have to give them their props, because when I think about it, this is almost 40 years later. Those brothers, first of all, they look like they wasn't about nothing, but you did not want to mess with those guys. They look like those backpack kids that maybe look like geeks and nerds, but nobody disrespected those,
No.
okay?
No, they was tough cats, but
It was tough cats. It was about their business. And what I loved about him, what I said on his Instagram today was, well done, brother. You didn't sacrifice your integrity. Y'all kept the music clean. Nobody injured themselves after listening to what it is that you put out. Job well done. 30 years of clean hands. That's hard to maintain.
Very. And I'd go as far as saying they're two of the most underrated lyricists ever.
Very.
Those cats was dope.
Very.
Sop Sound, those cats was dope. Those cats are dope.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes. 3 feet high and rising. It was so clever. Again, like I said, there was no head busting. There was no degrading women. They didn't want to kill any brothers and sisters. It was just good music. It was creativity at its best. And it made us dance, and we loved it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you keep mentioning something, and I keep having this thought. I have to get this out because that's the problem. Musically, culturally, human-wise, we are depicted as a monolithic people. We only have one emotion. We only have one thought. We only have one response.
Right.
And the way it's been sold when it comes to our expression is it only represents one emotion, one lifestyle, and one response. And that is so far from the truth. You can go back 500 years up until yesterday. And if you dig in the last 10 years, maybe, or 5 years, you got to really dig because they don't present it like they did when we were kids. You can find whatever kind of mood you was in, you can find it in our music.
In our music, right.
But we're not a monolithic people. They're people that have Tea Party needs. There's people who have Republican needs. There's people who have independent needs. You know, we can go through the whole gambit.
That's right.
You know, and that's why we have to own these platforms so we can give a voice to the multiple cultures within the bigger culture.
That's right. I agree.
I'm sorry, you inspired that thought, Miss Moon.
Definitely do. I'm happy that I did. We definitely have to. We got a lot of bad press about just the way we eat, the way we dress, the way we do everything. But again, nobody has the soul that we have. And it was good enough for our ancestors. They used to live to 106, 116. They didn't have any cancers or anything. They just went to sleep and never woke up again. What a way to go. Right? These are some of the things. Every other household had somebody 90 years or older.
Absolutely.
So our culture couldn't have been that bad. And then you got to know some of the stories have been skewed because how could you get beat down, broken down as a slave and still live to 116? Right?
Come on. That's health.
Yeah, and there's towns like, there's certain towns when you look through the annals of the genealogy, there's certain towns where almost everybody in this town has a centenarian in their house. How does that make sense? Everybody in this particular neighborhood has at least one person over 100 years old. So the times have changed. The culture hasn't changed much because we've always talked jive. We've always played the dozens. We've always had jokes. We've always been comedians. We've always been, even vaudeville and ragtime music. What was this? Scott Joplin. There's so many different facets that we've been throughout the centuries here. And our music has always reigned supreme throughout the world. From the Negro spirituals to what they call slave songs and stuff like that, to the gospel, the Mahalia Jacksons, all of these people that contributed to everything that we know today to be popular came from our people, our beautiful people.
Definitely.
Marion, Leontine Price, Marion Anderson. What about the Black Patty? I don't know if you know about that, and I'm still pretty sure that she is one of the relatives. I can't figure out who exactly her parents are because she left to go to Rhode Island. So now I do know that there was some people in Virginia Virginia and North Carolina that did leave and go to New England. But Sister Rita Jones, they called her the Black Patty. This sister was an absolute gorgeous, gorgeous woman. She was just decorated wherever she went. And this is in the 1870s, 1880s. Look her up, Sister Rita Jones. They called her the Black Patty. She is
Black Patty.
absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, because of the time frame, there's no phonographic recordings of her. There wasn't even anything that they can digitize. She was making this music and traveling the world before they even had silent movies. So,
Right.
there's no
Right.
known
They had
recordings of her.
there was a particular type of cylinder recorder, but to my understanding, you can record it, but there was an issue playback, and
Yeah,
it like dissolved.
yeah,
Because I've been trying to find certain things from back then, and there's a piece of me that really believes
yeah.
that they got it. They did. We just
Right,
haven't tapped
right.
into the right place.
Right. And who's to say that it's not in somebody's private collection, right? Because people collect all of these things in antiquity and they don't have to turn it over. If they paid $20 million, they don't have to disclose who bought it. They don't have to disclose how long they've had it. They can pass it down to their children and we'll never know.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? But this woman, she was bedazzled and loved all over the world. Everywhere they would go, she would go overseas. Particularly, they would just adorn her with the finest, most beautiful jewelry in every country. And this is still at the post antebellum days. Leading up into the Industrial Revolution. When they started to modernize and industrialize everything, and people started migrating out of the rural towns and moving into the biggest cities. And you have this sister who stopped in the middle of her career that was absolutely thriving. She certainly would have had another good 30 years in her, but she stopped to take care of her mother. And then she ended up getting sick and she died in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. But just to know what her story was, she's somebody that I would like to celebrate because there's no videos of her. There's not
Right.
a lot of footage. But if you look at these pictures and you look how styled and poised and beautiful this sister was, and she wasn't no thin woman. She was a chocolatey sister with the short cropped finger waves and all of that. When you guys see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you can just feel the vibe off of the documentation surrounding her and how popular her music was. And you can just put her name in and see all over the world that this sister was the Patti LaBelle. She was the Beyonce. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I do.
At that time. I really wish if there are any recordings, I certainly wish that they would be let out to the public, because that's part of our culture that we don't, we weren't able to tap into unless you were there. And nobody from 1880 is alive right now that we know of.
No.
And they certainly wouldn't remember, those types of experiences. But the music has shaped the world pretty much in its entirety. The dance culture, music and dance goes together. All of the dances that accompanied the music, Cab Calloway rapping in the 30s. I don't know if people realize Minnie the Moocher was a whole music video.
Yes, it was. He was talking about a low down dirty girl.
Oh my goodness. Yes, he was. You know what I'm saying? And then that was part of the culture. And where we see he left Virginia and went to Manhattan, right? Who was in Manhattan at the time? You had your Bumpy Johnsons. Again, goes back to gang culture and stuff like that. You had your Cotton Club, the Flapper Girl dancers and stuff like that.
Dutch Schultz, all this stuff.
Right. So they may have made investments that we don't even know about into the culture the same way they did now. The dudes and the Italians, they kind of had the money to form these labels and they were in control of the labels, right?
Yes.
And who's to say it wasn't the same way then? And then you have people like Lena Horne, extremely talented sister, but she didn't take no nonsense from nobody. You can tell by her longevity and the respect that she commanded. Same thing with Aretha Franklin. You hear the stories of Aretha Franklin. She didn't get on stage until they gave her cash.
That's right. And she carried that cash with her.
And she be on stage. Why you see a purse on the piano all the time? Because she got a bag full of money. And she ain't getting on stage without the money. So
because this goes back to what you were saying. These people understood what it was about. They developed the chops to want to deal with it. Because a lot of these folks was running around armed.
Yep.
And they and to your statement about it probably was like that then. I mean, Suge Knight wasn't just developed in the late 90s.
That's right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
That's
Back then, they didn't care if you got broke up. There was just no real news about it. But you say, what happened? We had a business discrepancy.
That's right.
And it's just an unfortunate reality. And I think you know, and that's the issue. That's why, for me, giving a proper context to the story of the blues is very important, right? Because a lot of people who revere the music and the people who sang the music, but not necessarily the people and the lifestyle, they celebrate juke joints and they make it into this nostalgic moment. But juke joints were where marriages broke up. Juke joints was where people got stabbed up.
That's
You
right.
know, juke joints was where, you know, a runaway was being prostituted.
Yep.
These weren't nostalgic, nice places. Most of the people who got away from that was really happy. You know, Jimmy Duck Holmes runs the longest legitimate juke joint. He's in Mississippi, Bentonia. Mr. Gipp just passed, if I'm not mistaken. He ran a joint, but they were giving him some problems. But Jimmy Duck Holmes runs the longest legitimate juke joint in Bentonia, you know, and it's not always this nostalgic thing, you know, and then
Right.
coming from, so you speak about how the Migos or Wu-Tang or MOP, Mash Out Posse, you know, tore up a club. This was happening back then.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes, indeed.
right? So then now when we get back to trying to give a proper documentation and then how the census and different historical pieces are inaccurate, let's be realistic. There are
Right.
places in the backwoods, even to this day, but back then, your average black person didn't want to be found at.
Right.
Not because they were ashamed of it, but because they may either weren't built for it or they didn't want to be bothered with it.
Right.
So how can a strange white person find their way into these places, get answers, and walk out unscathed? This is unrealistic
Right.
at best.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed.
You know, and it's just really, it's just crazy. So then you have to wonder how much of this stuff was made up, because you and I both know from our work, when a stranger comes into town asking questions, I'm telling you what I think I want you to
Want
know.
you to know. That's right.
You understand? It's just, you know, did you hear Dick Gregory explain what Uncle Tom really was?
Yes, I did. But I also knew, I didn't understand when I was younger, but a lot of those things I revisited in adulthood and was able to have a better understanding. Um, and you know, again, we always thought that Uncle Tom was the no good one, and really he was the good guy. Sambo was the creep.
Right, right. Now, I'm trying to find my charger because my phone dying, so I'm changing
Yes,
positions
go ahead.
here.
Take your
Uh,
time.
um, According to Dick Gregory, Uncle Tom was the brother who, if there was a Koffel gang coming through the town or through the backwoods, oh wait, hold on a second. Can you hear me, Miss Moon?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Uncle Tom. So, if a Koffel gang was coming through through the backwoods, which the Koffel gang would be, is documented. They were the chain gang of prisoners being taken to these slave camps.
Right.
Every so often, there'd either be a revolt or a white or black woman is disrespected by what was known as the Georgia man. The Georgia man was the rough and tumble. That he's the image they use for the big frontiersman. That's
Mm-hmm.
the Georgia man. He was the one who didn't care. He didn't care about getting his hands dirty, and he would go snatch up these quote unquote Negroes, and then with dogs and horses, they'd walk them for days to whatever location. And in some of these instances, there was revolts. In some of these instances, there would be a white or black woman who was abused, attempted rape, or whatever happened by these Georgia men. These were alleged white men, right? What would happen is if one of the if a group of these black men or two of these black men end up killing one of these white men that's marching them through the backwoods, they would take him to Uncle Tom's cabin. Uncle Tom, in his cabin, he would dissect, chop up, and boil these human beings so there's no trace of this man again. So he was the one who got rid of the body of the white people that ultimately met their demise by black hands. And there was these cabins that were sprinkled around, I guess, the United States in these real backward areas where ain't nobody else going. You see what I'm saying? Right. So when we hit, when you come across something like this, then you have to go back and revisit how they've portrayed not just us, because you and I already identified we've been misclassed, let alone reclassed how many times. Yeah. But the characters that were in our communities that played different roles, they took those names and just like they refurbished our music, they refurbished these characters, giving us a whole different understanding.
Yes.
You know, just like one of my most favorite folklorists, and she may not have been called that back then, but this is what she's an ethnographer, Charlotte Fortin Grumke. Right? She was in the 1800s, early 1800s. She went to St. Helena Island on an excursion after, quote unquote, that part of South Carolina was freed from slavery. Right. Her grandfather was a free black man. He bought him and his wife's freedom, and they made multiples of millions of dollars. Actually, he funded William Gleason or Greason, who did the Liberator newspaper. Right. This black man funded this. And the reason why I have to keep saying this is because, and you've touched on this a lot in your broadcast as well as on your post, because I told you before, you be giving them hell, by the way. But we keep getting these stories of all these slaves and only slaves, but there was more free than in bondage. 12% is what they always say, right? 10 to 12%. Right. And I'm really confused because after 600, 700 years, shouldn't that 10, 12% be at 30 by now? Yep. So there's a whole bunch of free black people, free melanated, free indigenous, however you want to word it, because it's the same people. It's a whole bunch of free that has done not only just great things, but they've documented our story. That's right. Which is important. But it's just mind blowing to me. But one of the reasons why I bring her up, getting back to our conversation of one, kind of putting this in proper context, she was the first person that's been documented as recording Black spirituals. And I've been trying to, that's the only reason why I know they said there was the cylinder that you can't play it after one or two plays once it's recorded, because I'm trying to find those songs. Right. You know,
wow, but that would be amazing to be able to listen to those materials, even with the crackling and the imperfection, things like that. It would still be incredible to listen to. I listened to I and being able, and they've changed it since even when I was in the studio. You know, we went from ADAT to DAT. Now they don't even have ADAT and DAT anymore. Everything is so different. You know, we started with the TR8. Now they got, all.
You remember the 12-inch reel?
Everything now. And I just think about how the hell did Ray Charles and Tina Turner and they go, and Smokey Robinson, how the hell would they go in Motown? And when you listen to that music, you can hear every single instrument. You can listen to the song 20 different ways, 20 different times at different decibels. And this time, oh, is that a tambourine? Oh my God, is this you can feel the bass. You can feel every part of the composition. Everybody's contribution is like extremely perfect. We don't have that anymore. So now, you know, and I always was pretty decent in the studio. I could go through, run through one song, one shot, you know, get it in quick. We didn't got to waste a lot of time. About 3 hours, I could get 5 songs done, you know, in that time. Like we were those type of perfectionists. We took it really seriously. At that time, especially in the 90s, where they expected all of us to come in looking like little Kim with little tassel pasties on our boobs, and you know, but we were about our business, you know, and that was also a problem. When you about your business, they can try and blacklist you. It's all in how you maneuver, you know what I'm saying? Because you can make mistakes and still not even get anywhere. Like if I would have signed this deal, 3M Records, it was a little bid war. And back then they weren't trying to give, this is when they were starving. Lauryn Hill starved everybody out. So I was compared to Lauryn Hill because I sing also, plus I'm a writer. Then even at this time, Montel Jordan and his wife wanted to sign me, but the person that brought me to them was the Creek. And I could have 20 million records and probably still been on the couch somewhere, right?
Wow. And we heard that story once.
And I didn't know any better. The best investment I made was a book by Kashif, How to Make It in the Music Business, right? And this is before the TLC story broke, and we still didn't have any idea that you can do all of this and end up penniless, right? And a lot of that, it influenced some of the decisions that I made. I didn't know what I know now, certainly, but I knew when I went to this lawyer and he's telling me he knows Jaguar Wright, and he knows there was this girl, she didn't last long, but she was one of their writers over at Universal. And I said, well, damn, if I get this lawyer and he's working for Universal, is that a good idea for me? If I'm signing with Universal, should I get a lawyer that works? I didn't really know. No one really schooled us, but I knew better. So I would spend a little extra money and get a lawyer to watch the lawyer, because I didn't know who was who was friends with who. You know, we went to different parties and things like that where it was just executives. You don't see a Jay-Z in the room, but you better know who Andre Harrell is. You need to know that that's, you know, LaFace over there, or Kevin Lyles or something like that. Oh, look, there's Laura Davis, you know, Clive Davis' daughter. You still had to be able to recognize those people. But if you got into a business deal with them, you still didn't know that it would be slash you, slash this, slash. And then you end up with this after they've made this big old mountain load full of money, and you've given your blood, sweat, and tears. You spent time away from your family. And that was also very difficult. And shout out to my kid's father, because he was very supportive at that time. And he was like, you know, and I could have taken them with me, because they did have where I could have made accommodations to take them on the road with me, but we wanted them to be a lot more stable and didn't really want that much interference or that much contact around our children. So even as young parents, he held them down. We looked out for each other while I was doing the music, and shout out to him, because he believed in what I was doing. He knew me since I was 10 years old. So here it is now that I had that opportunity, and that's what and it was also with care and concern that I be careful. I got drugged twice around 2 people. It just happened. Two people almost got date raped. So that it wasn't, you know, and one person, he's actually gone now, but the other person, he's still out there, and I'm not fond of him, and everybody knows I'm not fond of him, and I can't prove that he did it. But twice I got poisoned around here, and I was very, very careful. You know, but there was so many different facets to the music industry that it was just like, damn. And I just imagined, did Della Reese have to go through this? Is this what Bessie Smith had to deal with? Did Aretha had a gun in that purse? She had her little something in that purse.
But this is okay.
There's no way that it didn't happen to them. But I know there was a person that tried, and they were unsuccessful, and I'm pretty sure that was part of their longevity, because that one person that tried set the precedent for nobody else to try and play them anymore. You know. So there's some things that we should do creative wise that I would love to do over. Just to pay homage, because again, this is part of our culture, and definitely part of what, you know, at that time, if it did something for us, I'm sure in the 40s and 50s weren't any different. Some of that music that touched our grandparents, it was special to them, and it ended up being, you know, today's nostalgia, but to them, it was the new happening thing that was happening. It was all the rave, and I'm sure they can remember how they felt listening to it. There's a song by Archie Drell and Archie and the Drells. And this song, I heard my aunt, I will never forget. We were in a 1970 something Pinto. Those cars, they don't make them anymore. And it was
No, they
hot, and the
don't.
car didn't have any air conditioning. And if the car wasn't moving, you couldn't catch a breeze. You're dying in the bucket seats, and the leather's hot. And we were driving down to New York City, and I'll never forget. It was only an AM radio. This is how old the car was. It was an AM radio. And we turned to this station, and all I heard was, now let the drummer come in, let the drummer come in. And my aunt said, oh my God. And I never forgot the song by her reaction to the song. It's called Tighten Up. Now, if y'all hear this song, it's a fancy ass song, but again, you can hear them playing the instruments. Now get a drummer some. Now here go the bass, here go with the bass. And the song to this day is something that's dope music. It's timeless. It's never going to go away, but I will never forget how I felt good seeing my aunt feel good over the song. It was her nostalgia, and it was new to me. But again, that's just the power of music, that I remembered how good she felt, that the song, now I'm 46, makes me feel good because I'm going off of how her reaction to that was. You know?
The connection.
Yes. So those are some of the things, like as far as our bringing our product home, we need to go back into the crates because they didn't make no money like they should have made, but a lot of people are making money. Look at Sister Nancy, even with the What's a Bomb Bomb, she's just now getting paid. How many Reeboks had used it? And this song has been out for over 30 years. It's been in different movies. She never got any royalties. Struggling all these years, and now here it is. I think Jay-Z actually may have helped her get paid for that song.
Because I remember the last time I heard, Barrington Levy said he never got paid by that song he did with Shine, and that was tough. You know,
that was an awesome song. Absolutely.
I didn't realize. I came across an article written by another one of my favorite groups, Poor Righteous Teachers.
Love him, Shaquilla.
Yes, and he wrote an article about how people think you signed bad deals and that's why you broke. He said we didn't sign a bad deal because we was always on point. Our label sold our music and we didn't know it because they were folding. You know what? You guys should read it because I don't want to misquote, because what he said was very prevalent. I don't want to misquote it, but you should read his article because it'll tell you how someone or a group of people on top of their game can still get played.
Right.
And one of the biggest I think points he made was everybody's talking about this Black Lives Matter and all this type of stuff, but you're not looking over here in the music industry where business-wise we've been getting slaughtered for years.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I wanted to be, when I first said, okay, I'm going to take rap serious and start writing these songs, as much as we battled and we trained ourselves to be able to, I wanted to be the Curtis Mayfield of rap. I wanted to write timeless songs. Because when I was growing up, my pop's record collection was what babysat me in the room.
Right.
You know, and I'll go by my grandmother's house, dig through his crates, and think I was stealing it and sneaking it home, but he knew. But they let me know they knew the day I was in the basement about 8 years old and I was playing Red Fox and I thought it was low. But you know how the basement saw the windows is up there. So everybody in the yard heard me playing Red Fox. But anyway, I would listen to these things and I'm gonna be honest with you, it also helped develop an identity, right? Because I'm sitting there as a little dude and I'm looking at David Ruffin, who's a dark complexioned man with glasses like these.
Yes.
And I had glasses back then, which wasn't really popular, as you know, when we was kids.
Right.
But here's this, tall, dark, lanky dude that looked like me. And I was like, yeah. And you could build that confidence booster. So it just did so much holding the record, listening to the music. Like you said, seeing our elders, whether it was parents, uncles, or grandparents come in, ooh, child, that's my, and they start getting their little two-step on the whole thing. It's a connection that I don't want to say we're missing it, they're trying to make us believe we're not connected.
That's right. And that's totally not true.
No, you go to people's households, you'll see it. Here, come here, baby. Say hi to Miss Moon. You're live on broadcast, so if there's 10,000 people watching, they're gonna see you.
Hello.
Hi, pretty girl. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's nice to meet you. Say hi to the young Dappa, y'all. Everybody in the chat. Is she pretty? Look at you.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
That's the one I want to take my guitar.
Oh man, yeah, I would love to see you guys have a jam session one day. Shout out to my sister Kim. You know, we were the youngest people in the band. Final Touch.
Oh, wow.
It was so much fun. Stacy, my cousin Spirit Wolf, he promises when he moves out to the West Coast that we are going to start a band. And it was just something that was between us. Like, we're going to jam and we're going to do it on Thursday nights. And, you know, just so we can stay level. I need that so that I can stay full. I put out a lot of energy. I extend myself a lot. And I just have to take those things for myself so that I stay full and being able to give, you know, that good thing to everybody else. I don't mind sharing it, but I gotta keep it to myself. You know what I'm saying? But and that would like make me happy. I'm not too old to learn how to play an instrument.
No.
And that also happens as, and I can't think of her name, forgive me, but she is in the Library of Congress. She created a program, and she said that she developed a program that can teach anyone how to play the piano.
Really?
So I'm going to speak with this elder soon, and I'm going to see if she can learn how to play the piano. I taught myself how to play a couple of notes in the glamorous life. I do remember Every Good Boy Does Fine, but that is something that a new hobby, a new thing that I'd like to do. It'd be new to me. I never tried to play instruments after the drum fiasco. So
do it. I'm encouraging you to do it. I didn't pick up an instrument outside of a microphone or a pen until 2011.
What? Wow. Okay. That makes me feel better.
Don't feel, do it. See, and this is the thing with this Babylonian system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't want to go too far back, right? Because I like to try to relate those things to currently, because if somebody says, well, what does that have to do with anything, then you have to really question, well, what does it have to? So let's connect it to now, okay? You go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to now. They target children with their music, with entertainment, and then as they target children, they send these grown ass men, excuse my language, to go sing or rap for little girls. Then they put a whole bunch of how can I put this? Young people that their bodies is feeling all types of things that they don't know yet around these grown ass men. They give these men drugs and liquor, and then they lock them up. I'm not saying that they're right for falling for the bait. Right. I'm just not judging. I'm definitely not playing the young ladies because my wife and I raised one that's a young woman and that's very responsible, and we're raising our baby girl that you just met. Mm-hmm. So I'm in touch. I'm not disregarding anyone's side, but what I'm saying is the business of entertainment targets children. They target children, then they put grown people around children, then they get these grown people licked up and hide up around children who don't know how to control anything yet, and they're going through all these type of things on the inside, and they're already mesmerized by seeing someone that they see on TV. This is a recipe for disaster. That's on the one end. On the other end, because they're targeting children, they're telling people, once you turn 21, it doesn't matter what the industry is. It's not just entertainment. Sports is a different thing because after a certain age, you can't do those things, certain things. Right. So, but, teaching, opening a business, learning something new. They make people feel after 25 your life, no, excuse me, after 21, your life is over. So if they're telling you after 21 your life is over, how do you think our elders have been feeling for the last 50, 60 years?
Right.
Knowing where they come, when they were young, the older you got, the more honor you got.
That's right.
And they've reversed it. It's been reversed. So now and I'm very passionate about this because you and I are the same age. We're in the age group, and I've come to realize what they're doing now. There's two groups that they celebrate. The young, because they're quote unquote the future. So this is devil's bait because they don't understand once they get to a certain age, they're going to just get rid of them and go back to the other 12-year-olds.
Like wet paper towel.
Exactly. The young and then the very old. So now you got people like Leo Bud Welch, rest in peace, made his first album at 88, 81 maybe, 81 or 88. Recorded his first album. So in the blues, what they do is these old people, our elders, they get celebrated, and the young up and coming ones get celebrated, and the middle age, our age group, give or take 39, 40 to maybe 65, nobody give a damn about.
Right.
And I get really upset because you may have somebody 45, 50 that has a story, a story of a 50-year-old, and the only way they know how to express it is through MCing.
Yes.
But they programmed us so much. I saw this woman on my timeline, and I say this woman, I don't want to name her because I have respect for her, and I'm not trying to say it condescendingly, but her statement really cut a chord. She was like, if you 40, 45 still trying to rap, you need to go get a job and give it up. And I was like, you fell for the bait. What if that's the only way that man know how to express? And you 45 years old telling a 45-year-old person, don't express what y'all going through, but you singing the lipstick song by a 12-year-old girl.
Right.
So I encourage everybody. I don't care what your nationality, your creed. I don't care what you do. It don't matter if your expression isn't detrimental to other people.
That's right.
Go do it. Because there's a group of people that need you.
That's right. I mean, DMX was what? He was almost 40 when he got his break, wasn't he? DMX wasn't a spring chicken at all. Get at me, dog.
DMX is an anomaly. He's an anomaly.
Yeah, he is. And they tried to wash him up really quick. I'm proud of him. I'm glad he looks like he's got it together. Hopefully those no good nothing muffins that didn't want to see him do good, I hope they stay far away from him. And that's another thing. You got these yes men around, and the yes men will let you have everything that can hurt you. And those are very dangerous people that don't say, you don't think you should put that bottle down. It's only 9 a.m. What's wrong with you, bud? You going through something? You want to talk about anything? When you don't have those people in your life, you should be afraid of the people that don't call you out at any point in time. That don't, if you agree all the time, then somebody's not telling the truth.
That's right.
Somebody's just not telling the truth. But definitely when it comes to that, we got to make sure that they should be taken care of, especially if they were influential. Like, there's no way Kumo D's catalog, his entire catalog, including his biggest song, which was the Wild Wild West, was $36,000, and some other person outside of our genre and everything has purchased this for $36,000. So that man's entire legacy, stuff like that, is completely disrespectful. But they'll spend good money to drive a car that Liberace had in his driveway. You know what I'm saying? But wouldn't pay $36,000 for Kumo D and his catalog.
Right.
So,
and it's a shame. It's a shame on many levels. It's a shame that the catalog is a legacy that should be passed down in your tribe, in your family, those who have your name. That's one. Two, they spent so much time I could say specifically the 60s. I'm sure they did it before, but they spoke about it more then. Developing artists, Motown spoke about that all the time.
Yes.
But and I have to call a spade a spade. Barry Gordy wasn't teaching these folks business. He wasn't teaching these folks how to and what to with their money. He was just teaching them how to look good so Motown made money. And that's a big difference. And I don't, there's a book I encourage everybody to read, thinking about Barry Gordy, because he was mentioned in this book, not in the it wasn't a big mention, but the small piece of information was very big. There's a book called Dolphins of Hollywood, the John Dolphin story. Every person, whether you know who you are or not, but if you're black, get this book. Read this book, because this book gives you a breakdown of not only a big part of our story that's rarely told, it gives a breakdown of maybe not the first, but one of the most prolific businessmen that come out of a black family that most people don't know. He changed the game.
Right.
The story behind getting a book is even better. Little Richard comes out of hiding a couple of years ago, remember? And my wife goes, "You should try to interview Little Richard." So I said, "You know what, you're right." So I'm asking everybody, and everybody who are, some of my go-to people, they're like, "Oh, that'll never happen." So I said, okay, no problem. So I did my own investigation, and I found Little Richard's lawyer. So I called this dude about 20 times until I finally got his assistant. I did my pitch, told her who I was, and while I was calling, she laughed and said, "If you really about, she didn't say, like, she pretty much said, if you about this life, this history life, do you know who John Dolphin is? Have you ever heard of the book Hollywood, Dolphins of Hollywood?" I was like, "No." She said, "You don't do this." We laughed. She told me who he was and what he did. I said, "Send me the book." She sent me the book. I finished up my year doing everything I had to do, and then I had some free time. I read this book in a week, and I was blown away. And I found Michael Dolphin and his nephew, Jamel Dolphin. The nephew Jamel wrote the book, and they have a play. Matter of fact, there's a documentary on South Central LA during the riots, during the Watts, during the Blood and Crips, and they mention Dolphins of Hollywood. The Dolomite movie with Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
See that when you saw him working in that record store,
right?
That was Dolphins of Hollywood.
Wow. Interesting.
That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna cliffhang so y'all could do the investigation.
Right.
He had a very pivotal role in the explosion of our music to the world and nationally and everything. Big role. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm so glad you came through. We definitely got to have another conversation. Maybe one day you could play a couple of chords or something like that.
Definitely.
Definitely. Let's do a part 2. We can show some excerpts of The King of B and a little bit of Native New Yorker and talk about some of your cinematic pieces in a lot more detail. Because again, and I want to invite you to the group Cornbread and Collard Greens, and it's all
definitely
American nostalgia. So anything that I just put in, I gave Mr. Walto Coonskin. And this movie, it was another thing that we weren't supposed to watch at all. But when it came out on Betamax, and this is probably like a year after I was born, like 75 or something like that, it came out. But I know Philip Michael Thomas. I remember the part that I remembered was this really sad scene of this broken woman talking about I'll probably play the clip on the fade out, but it was just an awesome piece. And this is where they got the idea for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I remember in the beginning of it, all I remembered from this movie was that scene with the woman, and it only lasted probably about 3 minutes, which is in cartoon form. But Scatman Crothers, I think that's him, and he is going ham. I gotta play this. Give me 1 second. To pull this up. This was absolutely. And I don't know if he's playing the washboard. I don't know what Scatman is doing, but I remember him. And he was a lot older even during this time.
Yeah, he played the blues.
Yes, he did. Let me see. And he's right in the beginning. This was like, here it is. Okay, hold on a second. Now, this movie came out in 1975. Again, Philip Michael Thomas. He was one of the voices. I'm pretty sure Isaac Hayes. I don't even remember. But it's a really, it's got a lot of jewels in it. It was just cinematic, and again, it's part of the nostalgia, part of our culture, the blaxploitation era, of course. But it was tastefully done to me. Now that I'm older, I can appreciate it for what it is, creative wise. That totally belongs to our people. So let me show this little clip of Coonskin. Wait 1 second. Okay, here we go. So this is Scatman Crothers, and he's going in.
All right, I'm going to give you a little example. I heard that 350 of you white folk committed suicide by jumping off of the Golden Gate Bridge. And out of the 350, there was only 2 that was niggers. And one of them was pushed. Watch me dance. I got the walk on, niggas, walk on. Walk on, niggas, walk on. Shop it, shop it, shop it, shop it, yeah, walk on, niggas, walk on. I've been waiting on welfare line in the morning now. Now I'm waiting on the pawn shop line. Walk on, niggas, walk on. Walk on, niggas, walk on. Let everybody be, yes, the man that you see. Walk on, niggas, walk on. Walk on, niggas, walk on. I've been shot on, pushed on, passed on, gassed on, red, white, and blue on. Now I'm waiting to turn on. Walk on, walk on, niggas, walk on. Walk on, walk on, walk on, niggas, walk on. Shop it, shop it, shop it. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be something. I'm a natural black face, part of my race. My face that I'm dying in this place. If I stop dancing, then don't let you blow me anymore in the wind, cause I refuse to come. I'm a rich man.
Man. Watch me dance.
And you see, walk on, baby, walk on, walk on, baby, walk on. Yeah.
So that's that. Barry White is in this movie. I believe Isaac Hayes is in it. Again, it was probably looks like the year I was born. I thought it was 75, but it was actually done in 74. But that is Scatman Crothers, right? That was definitely him.
It looks like he was playing the guitar too.
Yes. So I mean, I remember scat music, Ella Fitzgerald, her being the best one to do it. I remember the Memorex commercial for the cassette tapes, and she shattered the wine glass. Those are the things that I remembered. You know, I haven't really seen anybody else do that. I think Mariah Carey could do it, but Ella Fitzgerald had like literally the wine glass just bust into a million pieces. But those are the people that I remember doing the scat. And it kind of faded, and then there was someone that, to me, gave me a lot of confidence and boosted my self-esteem, and that was Anita Baker. And she had light scat with her also. One of my favorite musicians. I thought that she was absolutely beautiful, very well poised, and I just adored Anita Baker growing up. That was who influenced me musically as well. But she also had a little bit of scat in her as well, and I do remember her doing that. It kind of faded out, but that was when she did her live performances. It definitely included some of that in her riff. But those are the things that, you know, have shaped our culture, and some of the most beautiful contributions that we've given to the world through our pain. And if you listen to what Scatman Crothers was saying inside of the song, you can hear the same struggle. Nothing sounds unfamiliar about what it was that he was saying in that movie.
That's right.
And the name of that movie is called Coonskin. It's free on YouTube. Certainly, you guys check it out. It's a dope piece, and it's good. You see Barry White. There's a bunch of other people that are in it, and it goes from cartoon form back into human form. This is where Roger Rabbit got their idea from. So you can definitely catch a flashback. I don't remember too much else about the soundtrack, because what stuck in my mind again was that piece with Scatman Crothers. But yeah. So there's a bunch of that going on, and those are some of the things that we put inside the group to jog people's memories, you know, and it feels good, and there's no headache. That's is one of the places on the internet that everybody's safe there. There's no battle mode. There's no second guessing. There's nobody's feeling uncomfortable about anything. You post your music, everybody vibes. We talk about it, what we were doing at the time, what movie, those great moments in sports, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, whatever it is, anything that has anything to do with our culture and our greatest moments, sports, entertainment, even silver screen. I post a lot of movies like that in there. The Well, you know, and in those movies, I love those kind of nostalgic things, because now we can kind of understand why, when we went outside, our grandmothers and elders told us, when you go outside, you better not fall in no goddamn hole. If you fall in the goddamn hole, you whip your ass. You're like, damn, if I fall, they gonna beat our ass like that. So now you know what that means, though, because there literally would be holes that children would come up missing. And they'd be, and the whole town could get turned up into riots over a child that fell in a little, I don't want to say rabbit hole, but they were missing. And, you know, last thing I seen, you got to watch that movie, The Well. I put that in the group also. It's a really, really dope movie. And it was written very well. Of course, to see a lot of the colored actresses at that point, they didn't get really great movies or great acting roles. But this particular movie, it shows that they were capable of getting leading roles, you know, and more supporting roles from just one artist of color. So that was pretty interesting. Mr. Pearly, take us out. Well, we got to wrap this up. I definitely want to give you an opportunity to speak again to the audience, and thank you so much for coming through.
Well, thank you first and foremost, Miss Moon. I appreciate you, what you're doing, and inviting me on the show. I don't know. Are you asking me to give a shameless plug? Is that what you're saying?
Just give the people a few words. Let them know what they can expect from you. If you got anything that you're working on, certainly tell them what they could look out for, or to actually go in retrospect and check back on some of the pieces that you've already had.
Perfect. Well, first and foremost, the one thing I want to share with everyone, and it's something that I'm learning and coping with and trying to apply to not just my work, but my life. Try to search for truth unbiasedly, even if what you find proves your theory wrong, because that understanding will possibly make you get along with someone that you didn't think you can get along with. And we kind of need more of us getting along now than ever, right? And some logic. I would say check out African American Folklorists. The very first publication came out, and Miss Moon was in it.
Yes.
I'm hoping she's gonna be in the next one.
Yes.
Okay, check out Jack Dappa Blues. We have docu-series. We have articles. A whole hell of podcasts with blues folk, so you can get their story and how their story connects to our story. And I got some things coming up, but I'd rather not mention what's coming up. When I hit you with it, just be sure you there.
Just be ready. Just be ready.
That's right.
Right. Well, I dropped Jack Dappa Blues Radio.tv in the chat for everybody to go check it out. You can certainly follow Mr. Pearly. Thank you so much for coming through. This was an honor. Very well, long overdue, but it happened. And we'll definitely love to have you back again.
When you ready and you got time, I'm here for you, sis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pearly. All right, everybody, I want to say good night to you all. Thanks for joining us in this discussion. Play it for the elders. Let them hear some of these things. Definitely, Cornbread and Collard Greens is the group on Facebook. There's no pain in there, so definitely we want to keep it that way. It's really a safe space online where nobody's mad at anything. Nothing's going to turn your stomach. You post your music, you post your movie or something that reminds you of your people's, your childhood, or anything that made you feel good. That's the place where we don't feel any pain, and we use our crafts and creativity to remind us of how good we felt when it happened. That's the beauty of nostalgia. It makes you feel good, and it's something. It's healthy. It's healthy. We want to do healthy stuff, and those are the healthy flashbacks that we can enjoy. So I want to thank everybody for coming through. Certainly we'll be back in a couple of days. Got to get cousin Tasha. We're going to do a little all-star jam. So definitely, if you haven't already, go to nograndmakillers.com and get your tickets for Texas. I don't know what y'all waiting for. Don't wait till the last minute and they sell out. And you have to sit there and watch it on live stream. It won't be such a bad thing. But you definitely want to be in the building for that. Everything is healthy in Indian country, and I hope you stay that way. Love, peace, and abundance of bear grease. Peace a lot, Chike.